Hey there, welcome to What's on the Horizon. I'm Lori Sharonbrock, and I'm here with Chris Shooker of Digital Horizons. And today I want to talk about kind of a thought that I'm just curious about, and I bet you hear it a lot, but what happens if I have all this smart technology in my house and I decide to sell the house? Does it typically add value to the house, or does it tend to scare buyers away? Like, do you hear feedback about that?
We don't hear feedback about did the technology scare anybody away. I would say if I've heard feedback about the technology involvement in the home, if someone says anything to me, it's usually not the homeowners, because oftentimes if they're selling the house, and this isn't always the case, obviously there's a bunch of different scenarios here, but I would say more often than not they're no longer living in this area. But even when I say that doesn't feel right. But either way, to the question, I would say I don't have anything that I'm told scares, or they felt that scared the buyer. But I would say probably there's a few things that help the sale, and I would say it largely depends on how incorporated the technology was into the home, and how well it was executed, which obviously in our case it's extremely well. But I would say there's no world where it doesn't help. It's just really comes down to the buyer, and do they value what is being purchased. So bigger things that I think would help or have helped in the past are theater rooms. If someone is looking at a home and there's a differentiating factor, something like a theater room can be very helpful to the home's value. A golf simulator nowadays is a big attractor, and definitely something that is very popular. Stuff like lighting control and motorized window treatments is also very popular. And the comment I would make for all of those things is it really depends on what state they are in. Now, the answer that I gave is obviously based on our experience. If you have had a home where this technology has been built in, your experience may vary based on the state of those things. So if you're not in our area, for example, and you have some of those things installed, I would make sure that they are brought up to speed, and that everything works. Obviously, if you were to try to sell the home and those things weren't mostly, if not completely functional, I think that would definitely scare a buyer. But if they're working and they enhance the home in terms of functionality, it's really hard to not add value to a home with those things.
I think I'd have a hard time saying no to a house with a golf sim in it.
Right?
I don't think I'd turn that down.
Yeah.
I would call you, which I would assume would maybe be like my next question is, so let's say they leave it and there's new owners and they reach out to you. Will you help them? Will you come out and show them how it all works, in case they're not familiar? I mean, I would think they would be, but perhaps they're not familiar with a Control 4. Perhaps they're not familiar with how that all integrates and the
Yeah.
lighting and so on. Do you go out and help?
Always, yeah. So our systems we brand everything that we do, right? We want the current owners, if there were ever to be a question, to know who to call if there's issues. And when you buy a home that has our systems in it, you'll find that if there's an equipment rack, for example, there'll be stickers on it. If we have a security system, there's going to be, branding or labels to that effect, both for knowing who to call, but also in the case of security, like, hey, this house is secured. And so we do system handoffs quite a bit, is what we call it. So what'll happen is the previous owner will connect the new owner to us, and we'll schedule a time to meet with them in the home. And a couple things happen. One, there's actually an official handoff process for a lot of the stuff that we use that the manufacturers have built into the equipment. But then we have our own handoff procedures that varies based on the system. Things that are built in, lighting control, motorized shades, things like that, there's really not much of a handoff because they just work. You just press a button on the wall or something like that. In the case of camera systems, security systems, or home automation, the handoff process is a little bit more involved, but it's not complicated. And The other thought that I would offer to those watching this is if you're buying a home that has technology in it, I would absolutely find out what the relationship is with the company that installed it. Because a lot of what people like us as a technology contractor or an integrator is what we call ourselves in our industry, which nobody knows what integrator means, but we do. A lot of it's proprietary, and not everybody can just go into a home and service a technology system. In our case, there's a couple brands that we work with, and it takes years of training and experience to actually deploy these systems and configure them. And if you're, let's say you're buying a home and you're buying a home in an area that you already live, and maybe the home that you're moving from has technology in it, and the home you're moving into has technology in it, but the technology in the new home is of a different brand, the company that installed your previous system might not be able to do anything for you in the new one at all. And you're going to want to make sure that the company that installed it is, I mean, obviously reputable, is still around, is someone you want to work with. And so those types of questions are really good to ask of the people, the family, whatever that you're buying the home from, because the enjoyment and the value, as we're talking about, that it adds to the home can decrease in both situations dramatically if that company is not somebody you want to work with or isn't around anymore, and or you can't find somebody to replace them.
So, kind of my final question thought that is rolling around in here. So, let's say I love said golf simulator so much, or I love my outdoor speakers and outdoor technology that I've created. Can I take it with me and you'll install it in the new house that I buy? Do people typically do that, or do they typically leave it?
It really depends on what's installed. There are a lot of technology items that we can carry over to a new home. There's just not a clear-cut answer. So, for example, if you, we'll just use the golf simulator question. If you have a simulator installed in your home, a lot of times, this really depends on the level of golf simulator, because there's anything from a $5,000 do-it-yourself up to into the six figures install type systems. And I would say the more that you spend on the simulator, the harder it is to transfer. A lot of the higher end simulators, just as the example you brought up, they're designed around the space that they're installed into. So you could move it, but you would need a space that could accommodate it, and that's not always easy. But yeah, there for sure. We've actually helped a number of clients that have done that, where they went from a home that had a bunch of technology that we had installed, and they moved to a new one, and things like TVs and surround sound systems, depending on if they're built in or not, of course. Stuff like that isn't permanently installed can definitely move. So it just really depends on what it is, and it probably goes without saying, but stuff that's built in, like speakers, cameras and whatnot, they can be a little bit harder to move, and in some cases it's not practical to do so when you factor in, if we have to spend time in the home uninstalling a bunch of stuff, what costs does that carry versus buying something new? And then the last part of it is, if you do have stuff that you want to move, how old is it? How well will that older stuff mix in with new stuff? So it's definitely possible, and we don't rule it out. We're happy to accommodate. It's just definitely a case-by-case basis.
Well, those were good answers. That's a lot to think about, and I think super helpful. And, if you're watching this and you have those kinds of questions, I'm going to tell you, this is the guy that can answer them. And I know how good you are with your customer service, and that you'll always do that. So if you have questions, you can always leave them in the comments of this video, or just give them a call here at Digital Horizons, and we'll see you next episode.